Alright guys, give me just a second. I'm gonna drop this link over here real quick for the guys on the YouTube. Here. See Tony's jumping in. Make this real quick. Alright. I'll update the graphic that's on the stream after I go through these charts real quick. That way we can just look at a few before open. One thing to go ahead and call out and keep in mind, it is quad witching or tri witching, can't recall, either way. Monthly and quarterly expiration of options is what that is. Let me confirm. Check in with the guys real quick. Jumping over to the charts. Then before close, before open, I will turn on the buy sell signals so that y'all have that on the live stream on a separate one. So right now, here I'm gonna jump over the 4 hours since we have some pre-market movement. Right now on QQQ, again, anything could happen today. It's probably gonna be more volatile given that it is the monthly and quarterly options expiration. Right now, what I'm watching on QQQ, like, yes, sure, you got SPY over here that is pushing it for the breakout of all-time high, right? And it already broke out, and you can see the measured move target that I have going on for that. Once we confirm that continued breakout, one thing that is interesting that I am seeing right here is that if you're looking at that longer term uptrend line for SPY, right, that's way back here. So while we broke down from that with the Japan carry trade situation, we retook it, but then it seems like we broke down again. So we've almost really kind of developed a separate, smaller uptrend going on here. This is still overall looking pretty bullish. I like the breakout there. I want to see it hold this level today. If we reject back under those previous all-time highs, that's concerning. From a technical standpoint, I would like to see maybe a retest right there at that level because we left a lot of gaps on charts yesterday. We all know that NVDA has been one of the primary drivers for the past 18 months, so I'm going to jump over there before I circle back to QQQ. So the interesting thing about NVIDIA and several other semis right now is that they actually are getting a little bit of bullish push, but they're showing a lot of weakness, is what several guys were talking about, some of the veteran traders that have been trading for a lot longer than I have over on another Discord I'm in. Which, again, like y'all have heard me mention before, I'm always a big fan of learning from as many different places as possible to get different perspectives, but ultimately, what you got going on here with NVIDIA is a potential inverse head and shoulder setup going on here. Head, shoulder. But that being said, I'm watching right now to see if this bull flag that we have here, this is a pole, and that's the flag itself. If we confirm a breakout or breakdown. So, depending on what happens there, that will probably carry. If we do break out, you're probably going to see a tap of this trend line right here. That being said, NVIDIA is one of the few tickers that gapped up yesterday and then filled its gap before moving a little bit more upward. But you can see that right here if you look at the daily. So NVIDIA's got some pretty big wicks going on here. If we do break down and reject here again, that's a bit concerning, and QQQ and broader tech is going to have a hard time moving to the upside more if NVIDIA is dropping hard, just because NVIDIA has driven a lot of the movement the last 18 months or so. But still, if we do break down here and invalidate that bull flag, I'm looking for continuation. Technically, we've got a downtrend going right here because lower high, lower high, lower high. We form another lower high here, either there or at this trend line. That's not going to be good. NVIDIA really needs a breakout to push above 120 and then to break out on the daily and weekly time frame and confirm that. So I'm being careful with that. I haven't sold covered calls on NVDA yet just because I don't know if we're going to confirm more of a breakout to the upside here or not. I want to see what happens with options expiration today because that can actually cause some pretty volatile movement overall. Definitely want to hedge long still if you are long on NVIDIA here, but keep an eye on it for today. The trading range for NVIDIA can be pretty broad, so you can see the minor and major supports we got going on here. Anywhere from the 122 range to 108 range is within trading range for an intraday move. So I don't expect that we will see maybe that big of a move, but we'll be prepared to trade it accordingly off the levels either way. Let's see, I know we only have a few minutes left for open, so I was trying to crank through some of these. This is technically kind of a cup and handle setup going on here too on this smaller time frame. So you've got a bear or bull flag right here, right? And if we get the breakout above, that's great. We also have the cup and handle going on here. I don't usually put a whole lot of emphasis on a cup and handle setup on a smaller time frame like the 1 hour chart. Normally cup and handle setups are more relevant when you're looking at on like a weekly or monthly or even potentially the daily chart across a larger time frame. For instance, if you look over here at coin or Bitcoin as well, and you look at the weekly, cup and handle, right? So very clear cup and handle, which normally with the cup and handle, you don't want to see a break below the high of the cup, which you can see it's kind of tinkering around that level right here. So definitely something to keep an eye on. We did invalidate the bull flag that we had going on here. So I'll go ahead and do this just to remove it. And that was a measured move. We moved the trade previously. So watching this to see how it plays out. Going back over to what we were checking, so QQQ, right, for NVIDIA and everything else. So QQQ, I like the daily chart. We've got these pushes up. We're trying to get the breakout there. What I don't like on QQQ is we left this big gap, which you're going to see on a lot of the tech tickers if you look from yesterday. Now, gaps don't always get filled immediately, so by no means am I saying, oh, we're going to go to 478 today. As you can see, we left this gap to the upside at 493 as well. So it's very likely that one of those two gaps gets filled in the very near future. The concerning part for me on QQQ, and this is why I look for confirmation on it, is that you've got this rejection at the same level that served as our previous rejection level for the previous lower high. So I'm watching that to see how we handled that level today. As of right now, we still have this head and shoulder set up across this larger time frame. The right shoulder, if this pattern stays intact, that right shoulder is probably going to form somewhere here below that 493.15 gap fill. Y'all have seen the gap fills many times and how that plays out, where we tag it and then we have a big rejection. So if we blow through the gap fill, that's great, bullish momentum. If we don't, watch out below. So I'm watching for larger moves, larger time frame. If we get the breakout to a new high, same thing as SPY. We've got to move potentially to the 550 level based off of the measured moves at the breakout. If we reject here and we form another lower low, or if we reject here and break that neckline down below 430, as crazy as it sounds, the measured move is 383. So that's where we have a significant support zone. Like I mentioned on yesterday's video for some of the tickers as well, you've got several key support levels between here and there. So I would probably be trimming if I was in puts on QQQ, which I'm not at the moment in any swing puts. I would be trimming those at each of the support levels, but just for the sake of today, and again, things might be crazy with options expiration, I'm going to look at the levels right here that are closer to us so that we can see how we could potentially trade it. So that gap never got filled yesterday. Okay, so I'm keeping close on 478, 478.81. See if we reject and drop lower. Right now in pre-market, it looks like we've got a mix amongst the tech tickers. Some are down pretty decent amount. Others are green, which is normal. And that's why when, like I know Little Man mentioned this morning that we're going to pump until election. Not saying we don't by any means, but I don't look at all tickers as one big bucket because we've seen repeatedly across the last few months, where certain tickers are green, certain tickers are red, and especially for those trading options, especially options that expire within the next 4 to 6 weeks, you can't really just assume and go one way or the other based off what the broader market's doing, because you can enter calls at a bad time and they burn you. You can enter puts at a bad time and they burn you. So ultimately what I do is I play each ticker independently based off what the technicals say for that given ticker. Sometimes when you're in a weird range on tickers, like what we've seen with some of the tech stocks, I won't trade options on that directly. Rather, I will trade stocks that actually have a setup that is going to be a higher probability of us securing gains on that, because it makes more sense without exposing ourselves to as much risk and without exposing our capital as much, right? So really my goal when I'm trading options is how can I risk as minimal capital as possible to secure the biggest percentage gains or consistent percentage gains of 5% or more on those options. So sometimes with those options that we're trading on more volatile stocks or volatile movement, maybe the option is cheaper, but the gains that we can secure from that is like 50% or more, which is huge gains. So that is why I trade certain things the way I do. Lots of things going on with the chart though, so we'll keep an eye on QQQ and NVDA. Just since I know D's just probably over here degenning in SMCI still, I'm going to jump over here. One important thing I want to call out for SMCI and IWM. So everyone is kind of noticing the sector rotation over to the small and mid caps again, right? Which is to be expected with interest rate cuts. The interesting thing is that people often think of IWM as being like small caps, but in reality, you've got some tickers like SMCI that actually make up the top weightings for it. So while SMCI can get a good little pump off the small cap rotation, we can also have situations where, for instance, if you have SMCI break down from this bear flag again, that's going to probably suck down IWM with it. So if you actually go look at the IWM chart and look at the SMCI chart, you'll actually notice there's a lot of consistency across those. Keep an eye on this, like we were talking about yesterday in the Discord. It might make sense to trade a intraday put and scalp it on this if it does get a breakdown, just because once you break basically that 436.24 level and confirm on SMCI, it can drop hard and fast to sub 420. So that's a $20 move, and SMCI options are usually really expensive earlier in the week, but they're cheap enough that it's worth lotto trades on Thursday and Fridays, especially on Fridays. So there's been times where we took like 1,200% gains off a single trade with that. So keep an eye on that, potentially going to trade that as well. Jumping over to Apple real quick. I know we only have a few minutes left, so I like this bull flag breakout we got going on here. Also like the breakout of this downtrend, but we also have completed majority of the measured move with that already. So we left a gap on Apple to the downside here. Keeping a close eye on that. I want to see what happens with the movement in the coming day or two here. I'll be interested to see what happens with Apple today, given how the options flows looked yesterday, as well as knowing the monthly and quarterly OPEX is today. So if we do reject here, again, see these wicks signal uncertainty. So if we do reject there, we're at least probably going to tag that 222.71 gap fill. So that'd be a pretty solid intraday scalp trade off Apple puts if we reject. Alternatively, if we hold the support level, especially above 226.82, I want to see a breakout and then potentially trade calls up in that range. So keeping an eye on that. Let's see, any other tickers specifically y'all want me to cover, drop it in the Discord lounge real quick, and I'll try to cover them real quick before we wrap up this live stream before go live for market open. But let's see. Google had some nice bullish momentum going on yesterday, but it still is struggling within that same range. So keep a close eye on that. We left a gap there as well at 158.25, it looks like. Make sure it's not a previous one. Yeah, there's a gap there and there's a gap there. I just haven't marked this one. So we've got a gap there as well. Keeping a close eye on this, looks like we rejected at that level again, so keep an eye at that. let's see, Nike. Oh yeah, Nike. So I got your big chips. I'm kicking myself on this one because I saw on my well flow screener for options that I've been tweaking for the last few months. I saw a lot of bullish movement on call options for it, and I almost bought some based off of that and knowing where Nike was on its levels. And I really wish I would have, because that move yesterday with CEO change news sent it rocketing up, right? So if anybody was in calls on it already, that's great. I'll be looking for what plays out here. I will say, just because I know people see parabolic moves like that and they jump in puts or something on the opposite side, that's not a good practice to do, because IV is typically spiked on both sides with them. So it's not uncommon to see somebody that's like, oh, something rocketed up 10%, so I need to buy puts. Maybe it works out okay for you, but then also that's where the Greeks come into play, and you could get wrecked as IV settles and things trade flat or pull back. On the actual volatility pullback, not on the price, because that would be beneficial for your puts, but that actually will make those options premiums drop off hard. So that's why a lot of people actually sell cash secured puts on the initial pullback on a stock that just ripped up, because IV is still in their favor. So even though the stock price might keep dropping, which is not beneficial for the put seller, the IV dropping will still be, so the premium will continue to drop. So yeah, Nike, I don't have the levels marked here. I've got them marked over on my Webull charts though, so I will drop an update chart for Nike over in the Nike channel, so if you had that big chips. But I mean, you can see here, Nike's got this huge gap, right, that it left technically here. Oh, sorry. Technically, Nike has a huge gap up to 93. I don't know if we end up filling that or not. As of right now, we're getting pretty close. But see, I know we've got about 4 minutes left until open. So real quick, I'm gonna look at Microsoft. I've been scalping Microsoft quite a bit lately, so you can see it's got this nice bull flag breakout going on here. Those are minor levels of support and resistance. Microsoft makes these nice big moves within this range if it rejects. That's something I'm watching for. I like trading calls on it too. Once we have confirmation of the breakout movement on the larger time frames, I don't want to swing calls here with that gap fill still lingering until we have further confirmation of an upside move. Plus, I don't want to enter calls right here yet on Microsoft to swing, because there's only a few bucks between where we are now and the next significant resistance level. So for me to actually enter something, it has to make sense between the major levels and where we're entering, so that we can get sufficient movement on the option that we're entering. So that's why you typically will see me wait for confirmations. It has to make sense for the options that we're trading. So I'll go ahead and wrap up this. Just wanted to do a quick touch through. I can do a recap video later today after we see how things move, and give y'all some update charts over in the specific ticker channels if you need them. But good luck, everyone. Have a great day.